Oh, okay. So, hello everyone. Um, we are together. We are one women's talk show. It's a women's talk show, but it's not just about women. And we welcome you for joining us this Friday evening. We have not been on for a couple of weeks, so we apologize for that. This month of September, we're talking about depression. But before we get started, I am Michelle, your host.
I'm Daisy. Miranda. I'm Barbara.
And together we are one. So we're going to ask you to invite and share with others. This topic today is about depression. Depression comes in different forms. And Daisy, thank you so much for joining us. And she's going to share a little bit of different depression, because we all experience depression in different ways, right? We experience it in childhood. We experience it when our parents go through a divorce. We experience depression in many different ways, through anger, right? Bitterness, resentment. And sometimes we get into a funk and we don't know how to get out of it, right? So remember, Together We Are One is all about being real, raw, and transparent. These conversations that we have here with you, it's our own personal testimony. We're not professionals. We may guide you. We may direct you to some links and some information so that you can get help in whatever situation you're going through. And our hope is that through our conversations, if you can relate to it, or you know someone that you might be able to share with them, or you might be able to go to the links and get some help, because depression is real. It's a mental health for many, right? And a lot of times we don't even realize that we're going through depression. We don't know what that is supposed to feel like. And I had shared before that I went through a period of time of depression for about 6 months, and I didn't even know I was depressed. I just knew that I wasn't feeling good, that I was in a lot of chronic pain. I was in bed and I couldn't get out of bed. Literally 6 months of that. It was just like, and then all of a sudden it hit me like, oh my God, something's not right here, because that has never happened to me. I was in a very tough situation at that time. And so I was consuming all of that in my body. I was internalizing and suppressing all of that. And by suppressing all those emotions, it caused the depression in my body. And I felt like I couldn't move, like a truck hit me. And so with that being said, we want to hear what Daisy has to share. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on this show. This is so exciting. I'm really happy to be here, and I feel very blessed. So I'm a lifelong resident of Connecticut, and my family's from Puerto Rico. I am a 20-plus year educator. I'm a former teacher. I'm a school district administrator. I'm a proud mom. I have a great adult son, originally from Meriden, Connecticut. Currently live in London. I'm loving that. And so, I've just been really just finding my way back into my passion, which was journaling and writing, and recently released a book and became an author, which was a really big passion of mine. And I'm just really passionate and really just devoted and dedicated to education, and really helping children and students and families from public school system K-12. So
that's great. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your experience with depression.
Well, I, from a very young age, I was very aware of my emotions and my feelings. My parents divorced when I was young, and I was an only child for the first 6 years, and very much attached to my dad. We were really tight. And so when my parents divorced, it was really very difficult for me because, I wanted to, like any child, wanted my parents together, and I loved our life. And when that happened, it just really devastated me because of the fact of how tight I was with my dad, and now I wasn't going to see him every day. And so, and it was a really, it was a hard divorce on everybody. And so, when I went to live with my mom at that time, and, seeing my dad on the weekends, I saw how much my mom was struggling and really just pushing through and being a single mom, and that was hard, and not seeing my dad all the time. So I just remember as a young girl, I remember being very sad, withdrawn, quiet. And I often used to lock myself in my room and read. and I also used to journal, and really just I, noticed that that's like when I look back, my first kind of thinking, well, then I was depressed, right? I was a depressed child, and that it was really hard because you don't understand it at that time, and you're just trying to figure out and sometimes I'd become moody, and I would appear to have an attitude, but it was, I was angry. I was angry because I missed my dad. I was angry because I didn't want this. Nobody asked me, right? And it was all these things that I didn't know how to channel. And so for me, reading and writing was how I channeled that.
The outlet.
Yes. And so, that was sort of my first take on how, I handled being depressed. It did trickle into later years, right? I learned how to sort of, manage it a little bit. One of my things that I'm really, the way I kind of manage is, I try to find somebody that I'm really close to and try to connect with that person, so that I have like one trusted friend, right? And so that's what I did. I have, a best friend, and we would, she would be the one that would listen to my problems and help me to kind of manage that. But it wasn't until I went up into adulthood that I need to kind of get into maybe some therapy to sort of think about how I'm going to handle some of that. And so that has been very helpful for me.
How did that affect you in your teenage years?
The therapy or the depression?
The depression.
Yeah.
That it kind of grew with you as you got older, right?
Yeah, I was an angry child that, sort of kind of became a little bit of a withdrawn teen, right? And so trying to just not deal, but more just
goes through.
Yes, and sort of find ways to not deal with it, like be busy, do other things, hang out, anything but to deal with
the feeling.
Yeah,
the emotion.
Exactly, the emotion. So I wasn't journaling as much, and I wasn't reading as much. I was now kind of diving into social networks, right? And that's kind of how I just kind of suppressed it, basically. Some of the depression that I felt at that time.
How did that affect your relationships moving forward, especially with a male figure, right? Because your dad was no longer there. And sometimes when we want something so bad, we kind of try to look for that attention, but it doesn't work out, and then you go into more depression. Did you find that happening to you?
At times, later what ended up happening for me is, I spent a couple years with my mom, and then, for circumstances that needed to happen at that time, my dad ended up having custody of me and my brother who came after. And so we ended up moving with my dad and my stepmom, and he recently had married, and that caused some more trauma in my adolescent years because at the time, and I've been transparent, I'm, very, like my stepmother and I are super tight today, but those first 2 or 3 years that my dad was first with her were really hard. I'm not sure that she was just as welcoming with having a whole new family. I wasn't so welcoming that I wanted a mom. This woman's taking my dad's attention.
Right.
All of that was there, and it went through my teenage years. We luckily got through that and had a really big breakthrough, and actually that spilling out came to be where we got really close later in life. But it needed to happen,
right.
And those times did have an effect on me as a person. So, I, to get away from everything, I at that time had a high school boyfriend, and, I just really wanted to just get out of the house and sort of start my life at that point. And so shortly after, high school, end of high school, I just did just that, and shortly had my son after that. So that was kind of like, let me get out.
How did having a son at such an early age, how did that help you, or did that hurt you under the circumstance? Or would you say a little bit of both? Because I think a lot of times we go into situations trying to get away from a situation, and we go into something worse. Or it could turn out better. It all depends. But how did that work for you?
It actually was better for me, and I know that sounds crazy because people like, you know, when you think about statistics of teenage mothers, right, and what could happen to some, it make it, you know, the biggest thing I hear, like, you know, your opportunity, it's going to be harder, you're not going to be able to go to college, right, you're, you know, a lot, you can end up on welfare, like all these things, negativity, telling me these things, right? But I always believed very early on that I wasn't going to let my circumstances define what my path was going to be. And with my son, I think he was a very special, unique case. I always say he's my special gift from God.
Amen.
And the reason why I say that is,
Amen.
Right?
No, I'm looking at Miranda.
I love that because if we're going to be fully transparent,
right, and
we are, and we're going to be right. That was what I heard,
right.
So when I was, you know, my son and his father and I were in a very committed relationship. We were, and even back then, we were very responsible, given all that was going on around us, like
being so young.
Yes, like, you know, just we knew that we were in, sexual relations, but we were actually practicing safety with contraceptives and things of that nature. And the way my son Brandon, was conceived was just really interesting. It was a time where, you know, even I was using these contraceptives, we were being careful. It still happened, right? And so I really believe in my heart that he was meant to be here, and he needed to be here at that time, right? I don't have any other children. I've had many opportunities over the years, and that has not happened, right? And I think for me, like, just the purpose that Brandon brought for me in my life, and he really, you know, set my course straight. He helped me to have a focus, right? And he helped me to know that, you know, there's so much more to life, right? There's so much joy in life. There's so much blessings and happiness, and that child has done that for me, right? He has been just a pure joy, and I don't know what I would be or what would have happened to me if it weren't for him, right? Like, I don't know what happened, but a slight switch went off for me, and everything in my life was about him, right? Making, you know, just trying. I went back to school, I got my degree, you know, I had a house, you know, my 20s, because I wanted that life for him. You know, I wanted to give him what I didn't have. And, you know, sometimes when you have a child young, or you come from a certain situation, sometimes, you know, it can go one way or it can go another, right? But it really is about what you're going to do with your life. You make the choice, right? And you know, with a lot of praying, and I've never lost that. I always had that sort of foundationally, that spirituality. And, you know, I never just gave up on that. And so I have always believed, I pray, I believe, I, you know, have a lot of faith, and that has helped me tremendously over the years. So
I remember you saying years ago, so we've known each other for a while, but I remember you saying that for you, your son saved you. It was what saved you, and is what drew you to want to do better, to want to, you know, you prayed and you sought God, and it was just making sure that you did right so that your child can be right. And I think that a lot of times people may be under a situation that, oh my God, I'm a single parent, I screwed up, and what am I going to do? The other parent is not here. In your situation, that was not the case. Even though you didn't marry and you were not with him, he was a good father. Absolutely. And you didn't marry him. But a lot of people have this perception, I'm a single mom, or most of the single moms, right? I don't know how I'm going to make it. I can't do anything with my life. I don't go to school. I drop out of school. Now I'm in a deeper depression, right? So it's a choice that we make in life. We can choose life or choose death, choose to do something better, or choose to have a pity party and just be like, soak over here with me, myself, and I, and just not do anything better for your child's life. And so I think it's great to share this, because we want to, you know, any single mom, or no matter what age you are, that you may think to yourself, you know, how am I going to make it? How can I have a better future? You know, I don't have family that support me, whatever it may be. That's not true. Yes, it's going to be a little bit harder, right?
It is.
But, you know, whether it be family support, whether it be friend support, you can still do it. And you know what? God will always help you and send you someone that will help you. I know that you had a bunch of friends. There were like 5 of you that were together since they were like, like middle school.
Yes, middle school. Yes.
And they're still together. They still get together. They travel. And I've known, you know, a few of them.
That's how we met.
Yeah, that's how we met. So Daisy and I met. One of her friends very close friends was what my roommate, and then I met them. So her little clan, right?
Yes.
And they were always together. And it's a beautiful thing that through thick and thin, through the pretty, the ugly, the not so pretty, the marriages, the divorces, the babies, the separations, the hard times, they have remained together. And I think that that's really beautiful. And that's what Together We Are One is all about, right? It's about you finding an outlet that is going to be there with you, love you, discipline you, correct you, not discipline, but, correct you, pray with you, pray for you without judging, without condemning, because that's really important because we all make mistakes, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that it's great that you're able to share that because, again, I know a lot of your friends been through marriages, been through divorces, been single moms for a long time, but you have always been there together where you can laugh together, cry together. And I was able to see that for a few years when, Cynthia was my roommate, which I took in as like a daughter too.
Yes.
And now she's a mom. She lives in Florida and she's doing great, thank God. And we had lots of fun. We did, this was back in the days when I wasn't saved. We did vacations, we did clubs, we did, all kinds of fun stuff. We would have house parties. We would have lots of, we did a lot of potlucks.
Yes.
We would get together, laugh together. We celebrated everything. We celebrated birthdays. We celebrated divorces. We celebrated children.
Everything.
We did everything. Actually, her son was in my Sweet 16, and my daughter's Sweet 16, not my Sweet 16. But her son, her handsome son, was in my Sweet 16, the same age as my daughter, and so was Margie's son.
Mm-hmm.
He was in my Sweet 16, and Norma's son was in my daughter's Sweet 16. So we had all these girls, had all these boys. My Sweet 16. All these boys, the same age as Kayla.
Yeah.
They're all the same age,
Yeah.
and they were all in Kayla's Sweet 16.
Yeah.
So it was fun, and then we had a blast at my daughter's Sweet 16. Kayla,
Yes.
my daughter, not me. And we had a blast.
Yeah.
And we've had cookouts together. We've had a lot of great memories.
But that just speaks to the importance of your support
Right.
network, right? So whether it's family by blood or not, these girls are not family by blood, but they are my family always, right? They've been with me through thick and thin, and that's very important to me. My friendship, my close friends. I mean, these 5 friends you just mentioned, we just celebrated our 30th year of friendship.
Can you imagine how beautiful?
It was great. We took a trip to Myrtle Beach and we just celebrated that. We prayed, we talked, we laughed, we were doing each other's hair, right? It was like a big slumber party.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. Just take a break from children, from husbands, from life, right? And come together and just really, be blessed and really just
That's
enjoy.
really beautiful.
Yeah, we had a really good.
So I hope that, I hope this is speaking to somebody out there just so that you can realize this light is like all on me. I'm just realizing like, oh Lord, it's blinding me and it's making me very hot. So I'm going to move for a minute. But my point to this is it's important to come with a group that is united, that is all about loving on each other, and many disagreements, right?
Oh yeah.
Many disagreements,
Yeah.
but it's okay. You can agree to disagree, but still at the end of the day, be there for each other, and you love each other, right?
Absolutely.
And so we're gonna just.
I think that's good.
Is that good? Let's see. No, maybe this way.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. It was blinding me, making me hot. They're cold. I'm boiling over
Yeah,
here.
I don't know why I was cold, but I think I'm better now.
But going back to the importance, when you find yourself in a situation of depression, come around, talk about it. Find someone to talk to, right? Someone who's gonna listen to you, not always like judge you or persecute you, but someone who's gonna love on you and just like be there. Because a lot of times when we're depressed, we find ourselves alone, and depression just wants to make you feel like you need to be alone. Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like you're a burden.
Yeah.
Don't be a burden. Don't
Right.
don't put the pressure on others. Just be by yourself.
Right.
That's true.
It's true.
So, and you've been through, we all have, not just you, been through other situations that have brought depression, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think of like life. Life is like ebbs and flows, right? You're gonna have some of your highs, right, and you're gonna have some of your lows. And so, what do you do during those low times, right? And they're gonna happen, and we just need to be prepared for that. Later in life, I had, not that long ago, right, a couple of years ago, I had a really hard time going through some things personally. I was in the middle of changing jobs as well, and just ending a relationship. And I have just lost my dog. And so for those of you who know me, I am very, very much a pet person. And I had my beautiful dog Lily for 14 years. She was like with me when I first bought my first house. My son was 9 years old. And she and my son were very tight. And they were like two peas in a pod. And it was just us three. And was our family. And it was that way for 14 years. And so when she got sick, my son was grown now at this time, and even him, I was just like amazed by him, because I remember that day like yesterday, she was very, and we knew she was going downhill. We knew that she was getting there. And we had a vet appointment for her on a Friday, and it must have been like a Monday. And I remember Brandon coming to me and saying, Mom, Lily's not doing really well. I really think we need to take her to the doctor. And I said, we do. We have an appointment on Friday. We're going to take her on Friday. And he says, no. We need to take her to the hospital like tonight. Like, let's find a 24-hour vet. And I said, it's a couple days away. We can bring her on Friday, right? And he's like,
you're in denial?
Yeah, I was totally in denial. And he was like, no, now, Mom, I'm being serious. Like, I think we need to take her. So I was like, oh my God, okay, right? He has like a real sixth sense with her. They're very connected. Him and Lily, they really were. And she only wanted to be with him. It was really interesting. So it's the
girl
yes,
male thing.
It really is.
With Nelson, my husband.
My not anybody could not be near him, and he was all about her. It was like this whole thing, right? I was like, oh my goodness. And I loved her, and I did all these things for her, but she preferred him, right?
You know how to be.
Same thing.
Right? All right. So this is our first dog, so I'm learning all this. So I listen to him, and I take her, we go to the vet. We brought her there. I had no intention of not leaving without her. I was thinking, we're going to go, and, they're going to tell me and give her some medicine or something, right? Mm-hmm. No, we got there. They were just like, she's very ill. There's this, and they run all these tests, and they're just saying, without telling me, because they can't really tell you to put a dog down. They were just giving me the reality. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, I didn't even say anything. Brandon was like, Mom, she's suffering. We need to put her down, and at that point, I'm just like bawling. Mm-hmm. I'm not ready. He was the adult in that moment. I was the child, right? There was no doubt about it. We just switched roles for that moment. And he was so strong. He was like, this is the right thing to do. She's suffering. I know, Mom, it's the right, it's going to be okay. And, he's very consoling me. And I was like, oh my God, this is a hot mess. So, we ended up making that decision. And I will tell you, it was the hardest decision I ever made. Like, people, those pet lovers out there, what I'm talking about. Like, people sometimes don't understand the power and the deep love that one can have. And it goes just so deep, that love, right? And sometimes, and I hate to say this, but sometimes you're more and more of a pet than you do a human.
Well, you said that, right? Didn't you just say that earlier?
Yes. But isn't it true?
It's true.
It's just the unconditional love, the loyalty. They are truly, truly your best friend, right? And that's what I thought about. It's like, the house is, everything about her was just so special. I was so lost. Coupled that on with what I was going through personally and professionally at that time, everything felt like it was hitting me at once. Triple, like the trifecta, right? Everything is going wrong. What is going on? Where's my dog? I don't have anybody to talk to. It was just a really dark, lonely time, right? And I got really depressed, like in bed depressed. Like, don't talk to me. Everybody's like,
it's for like 2 years.
Yeah, so it was bad. Those first few months were the worst. It was really, really hard. And my son was very, he was concerned because of I wouldn't get out of bed, that kind of thing. I would need.
Was he living with you? Or
he was at that time. He was, I think, right out of college. So I think he was home. He was really worried. And I'll be honest, I was a little worried about myself at that time as well. Not that I was going to hurt myself, but just that I couldn't snap out of it. And so, it's like really mental and bunk, and no matter what. And I'll tell you, it took a lot of time. But then I just started, I said, what am I, there's only so low you can get sometimes where you just have to figure out, how am I going to pull myself out of this?
Yeah.
I started praying, right? I started praying, and then I started journaling. I said, let me go back to where I was, my 9-year-old self.
Yeah.
Because that was when I was healing, is when I was journaling. So I started journaling, right? And when I started journaling, I started with words, and then words became sentences, and sentences became paragraphs, right? And before I knew it, I had like a couple pages. And then I started talking about Lily, and I started, like trying to think about the good times and the memories, and creating, pages of that, all the things that she used to do with Brandon, and, and before I knew it, I had like a kind of a little bit of a story going on here, right? And I started reading it, and I was like, this is kind of cute, da-da-da. And then, I added more, and it became really like with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I said, I started to think about a woman that I used connected with, who was an author, and she always gave me her card one time, and she said, whenever you're ready, think about that and give me a call. And so I said, I wonder what she would think about this story. So I sent it to her in an email. I just said, here's a little draft I'm just working through. I would love your opinion. I'm just trying to figure out all this pain that I've dealt with. I just wondered if it would be a blessing, or if it could help other people who might be experiencing loss, grief, right? In this case, it's about a pet, but it could really be about any of that. So she took it, she read it, she says, yes, this has got potential. I think there's not enough of a market in this topic, especially for children. And she goes, yeah, let's do it. And so that's what birthed my children's book, that I ended up making it bilingual, because I really wanted it to.
Really?
Yeah, I wanted it to be in
great.
English and
That's
Spanish.
awesome.
So we could touch as many families. And for me, that was another market she said was really lacking, was true bilingual books that not necessarily just translated, but are literally a balanced bilingual book.
That's great. You ladies can purchase for your little ones.
Yes.
So she has her book here, and she's going to share with us and show us and tell us about the book.
Yeah, so this is the book. It's called I'll See You on the Bridge. And the reason why I picked this title, right, is because if you know a lot about when there's, some stories, some thoughts around when pets pass, they cross the rainbow bridge, right? And so this is about, it's not really a goodbye. It's I'll see you later kind of a thing. I'll see you at the bridge someday, right? And so that's the piece here. And what I love about it is based on the relationship of my son. And in the book, we use his middle name. His middle name is Julian.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And so we use his name.
I love that name. I wanted to
Me
name
too.
my son Julian.
Yeah,
me too.
really? Oh my
And
goodness.
so did I. I wanted to name, if I had a boy, Adolfo, Julian Adolfo.
Oh, look, it's a Julian. So Julian was popular, I guess.
Yeah.
In the 90s, it was popular, right?
I love that name.
I love
And that's
it.
why Kayla's name is Julianne.
Oh,
Julian and Julianne.
that's wonderful. Yeah. So and Brandon was really excited to use Julian. He actually said, "Why don't you just name me Julian?" He likes Julian better than Brandon. But we and what I love about the story, and I won't read it, but I love the pictures, right? We did a lot
of the pictures.
So we actually, with my publisher, we had to do. I really learned a lot, by the way, about writing a book and being an author. It is a huge process,
So
right?
you need to share with me, because I have a few books that I've already been writing.
And so I will. You have to go through this whole process about finding an author. I mean, an illustrator.
Your first house.
Yes, but this we went through a few trial illustrators, and we're like, nope, he didn't get it right. She's not getting it right. This one, Mr. Len Smith, he has done a couple of ones, and he showed me, and I gave him a couple of my words from my book, and he brought it to life. When you work on a children's book, it's not so much about the words; it's about the illustrations. Do they bring the words to life? And he did a phenomenal job of capturing those moments. For example, like the house, right? This
And it looks like
it's like our
first
first house. Exactly. And this is supposed to be Brandon when he's little, and just how he is about being an only child, right? And how he felt.
Oh, wow.
And then, just like they're supposed to be me, but just little Lily, that looks like Lily, her golden way.
Yeah.
Just sort of how she followed him around, and they were
really good. They
two
did a great
peas in a
job.
pod, right? And this is exactly
But it's Antonio in there,
right?
my son.
So this is so funny because it was important for him to capture the baseball. 'Cause my son's a big baseball.
He used to play baseball, right?
Yeah,
Is he
all the
still
way.
playing?
Yeah, he plays recreational, but he played all the way through college.
Yes.
Right? And so all the baseball pieces, he captured all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way they slept together,
That
they were
is
like,
so cute. That one's really good.
and look at this, right? This
So
is, it's funny. I talked about this page about how we used to travel and we used to take Lily with us.
Yeah.
And all I said is that we used to take her in a pet bag
Yeah.
on the plane. And he caught the colors of our bags beautifully because that's exactly the colors we had.
Aww.
We would take her with us everywhere.
That's cool.
And he did a really great job. This is my favorite page because it shows what happens when Lily goes to Brandon's baseball games. She barks at all the dogs, and the big dogs look at her like,
She's
okay,
crazy.
you crazy, right? My father being here, me just cheering him on, right? This was just a great,
Illustration.
yeah,
Wow, that's
a really
beautiful.
capture. And he only had the words, like, but yet he was able to really
Bring it to life.
bring it to
Yeah.
life, right? And
Animated.
you know, just how sad she would get when he's not around, and then this is when he starts noticing she's sick, and he's telling his mom, right? So what happened as an adult for him, but I turned it into when he, like, if he was a child, when all of that was happening.
Okay.
And he took her to the doctor, and he was a little ill, and this is just a nice story also to talk to. How do we talk to children about death?
Yeah.
Right? Because what happens when the pet dies, which is usually the first experience a child has, you tell them the dog ran away. The dog ran away. The dog got lost.
Yeah.
Right? And at the time, that's going to ease that. But they never get to understand that death is a natural part of
Yeah.
life. And that, yes, we grieve,
Yeah.
and we move on, right? But
Yeah.
I think helping kids to understand that very early is really important.
Mhm.
Yes, it's going to be sad, right? But sad is an emotion that we don't stay there. We move on. But I think it's
Yeah.
important for them to then talk, like mom and son are talking about it. They're really working through those pieces, and you'll notice here that's in English and Spanish. So a Spanish speaking family can read the exact text in Spanish, or
I
you
got
could do both.
books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. And then I talk about like what happens when she goes over the Rainbow Bridge. So it's a great place. It's like heaven for pets.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sun and food and water, and very happy, right? And she's having a great time with all the dogs, right? So that he can be hopeful, right? And mom is kind of telling me, one day you'll see her again, right? And you'll see her in the bridge. And right now we're just gonna remember the good times, right? And you could dream about her and always have her close to your heart, right? And so, I mean, I think it's a really great book. And then I ended with a little bit about it. Yeah.
So there you
That's
go.
so
You
cute.
see what a situation of
Turning it,
depression, how you can turn it to good. Is not about being stuck. Again, she has shared with us, and we're going to go to the panelists. She has shared with us some things that she's been experiencing, different levels and different emotions of depression, right? When she was a child with her parents, when they got divorced, and then when she was a teenager, and then she had a baby at an early age, and some relationships didn't work out, so that added on to depression when her father remarried. All these different scenarios, and this is what worked for her. For her, it worked, and correct me if I'm wrong, journaling, writing, getting back to writing, and having your group to just come together and just really speak, and educating herself, trying to strive for better so that she doesn't stay stuck on depression. She went through her season of depression, but she didn't stay there. And she didn't use that as an excuse, like, I can't move further in the future, I can't do anything with my life. She took that situation and she built with it, right? I know that there's a saying that says, I know I'm gonna mess it up, but something about when you're throwing stones at someone, you
use it to build your foundation.
right,
A strong foundation.
right, instead of just letting it bring you down,
Mhm.
right? So ladies, you've heard this. What are your thoughts on this, Barbara? You have 2 little ones, and you experienced losing a bunny, right?
Yeah,
But-
and then our hamster. So this year has been tough for the kids, learning about death and preparing them for understanding what that's about. And so they went through that this summer, kind of back to back. And
And then you got Oreo.
we've had Oreo since March, and he's a joy, truly a joy. And
He's a dog.
I love the name.
And your story reminds me of my son and how close and how connected he is to my dog. Seriously, like he's like they're like 2 peas in a pod. So, but in terms of dealing with depression and things like that. I mean, I've dealt with that in my time, like especially as a teenager and into my adulthood. But I mean, everyone goes through their things, but um, it's like what Michelle said, like turning that into something that empowers you to move forward in life and like better equip yourself, whether that's, having a better relationship with your close friends, or ending relationships, or going to therapy, like things like that. I've gone through all of that. So um, yeah, I'm glad that you were transparent in that sense, where you were able to tell us like what you went through, and also like the most profoundest depression that you've gone through, and you turned it into something beautiful.
She turned into something beautiful that is going to be able to be a blessing unto so many, right?
Yeah.
Especially children and even adults, because adults don't know how to articulate their emotions.
So true.
And we have a friend that we have two, that one, she just lost her dog recently, and that was hard for her. She had her dog for 13 years. And then we had another girl who had her dog for 17 years. That's a long time. Marisol, yeah. So and what's crazy with Marisol is that and I'm sure she's okay with me saying, she went through a period of years. She just had a conference, an amazing, powerful conference, and she went through a lot of loss. She lost her marriage, her house, her job, her car, her brother, 42 years old, her mother, another dog, and then her sister, and then this dog. But the last one was the most painful process of loss, of grief. And we spoke about that last month, because God had given her a supernatural strength through everything else.
Yeah.
Because God really did. He held her, and as hard as it was to lose her job, her marriage, and her car, and her brother, her mother, and her sister, God carried her through. But there was something about that dog. And the thing is that for her, that dog was with her through everything.
Yeah.
It lasted with her through the marriage, the divorce, the losing the brother, the losing the mother, that dog was there to receive her, to love her, to embrace her, because dogs feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And for me, I always say, when we had Chloe, although my daughter asked for her, and now she's not here. I'm just kidding. My daughter requested her. She was a blessing to me, because she was an outlet for me through my hardest trials in my marriage, and then with my daughter when she was going through her season of rebellion, right? But Chloe was the one next to me.
Yeah.
I'd be crying, she's kissing me. I'd be praying on my knees, she's right there with me.
Yeah.
She's the one that loves you unconditional. She greets you. She's so happy to see you. No one is as happy to see you as your dog is when you walk in the house.
That's so true, right?
They're like, come on.
Yeah, but it's so cute. Like, you just feel so received, and so like, and that was really hard too when Lily passed, because I was like, what's going on here? And it took, like, some people get a dog right away. It took me 2 years to get another dog.
I remember.
Right? I just felt like I was like betraying her. Right.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know if anybody could fill that. But when you're ready, when you're ready, and I was ready. And last year we embarked and got another dog. Her name is Jazzy, short for Jasmine. She's a Shih Tzu mix, and she just turned a year old. And she is the most, like I was telling her, the best blessing. I mean, it just, even deep, like I can't even tell you how much joy she has brought to me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this was the right timing. Like, you just know when you're ready. And I'm very happy with her.
How about you, Miranda? What have you learned from all of this? Because she shared a few things. I feel like you may be able to connect, because one of the beautiful things, and I remember when I met her, a couple of them had their babies at a young age out of not being married. But for them, I remember her saying to me, he was what saved me, because I don't know where I would have been and what I would have done, right? And so when she was sharing that, I was thinking of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was 28 when I had my daughter, so I wasn't young, but I would definitely feel like I would have gone down like a different trajectory if Lennox didn't come when she did. And same thing, she sort of was like a miracle conception. It's weird to say. Yeah, every time I would tell like some of my girlfriends the story about how I got pregnant with Lennox, they would like their eyes would bug out of their head because they're like, "Don't tell me that."
I know.
But it was I think obviously a God thing in the sense where it was the timing was perfect. No, not the most ideal situation. Same thing too though. Lennox's father is a great father. We're not married, we're not together, but very blessed that is her dad. And sometimes I need to, remind myself that I'm very lucky that the situation.
He didn't just get up and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This because I know like I have a good friend who's had her son and father left after like 2 or 3 days of her having a baby. Yeah, and I, everybody has their situations and everything is tough. I mean, I know Lennox is getting to the age too where, like the other day, she goes, "Mommy, you need to get married." I'm like, she's 3. Everything is about getting married lately. I don't know. She told me she was getting married at 6 o'clock, and I'm like, okay, Len. So she's getting married at 6 o'clock. Mom needs to get married, but I think she's getting to an age where I think she would obviously love to see her parents together, but because she's always grown up, the difference was like she's always grown up with us in 2 separate houses. We've always, because we got pregnant just suddenly and unplanned. But I need to concentrate on the blessing of her father being in her life versus not, because it really is it's a whole different ballgame when you don't have a dad. And as far as depression is concerned, I've been very blessed. I haven't necessarily struggled with depression as far as struggling with it, but I think I've gone through periods where I wouldn't have been able to identify it as depression. After losing my father, my adopted father 8 years ago, it was like a 2 or 3 week thing. Same thing. It's almost like you can't even, it wasn't that I couldn't function, but that I was just like, I couldn't even control my emotions. I think that's, for me, depression comes that way, where like, I can't stop crying, or like, it'll come in like waves from like every, couple of hours after my father died. I was like a mess. Nothing that's ever kept me in a rut, thank God, but definitely things that I think people don't realize is that, sadness in waves like that, and the ways that depression hits, because even when I looked into depression when I was in massage therapy school, the symptoms of depression were very interesting. Like, it hitting different people differently. They can't eat, they can't sleep, or they're sleeping too much. So that's like, that's
extremes.
different extremes. Body pain is a big one. No motivation, lack of that. And I do see, and I know that we always say like, whatever we're sharing is not to ever bring anybody down, but to also be honest. Lennox's dad definitely struggles with depression, and I notice it in it'll come in waves. Like you'll be like okay, and you'll be like motivated, and you'll be like up here, and then you kind of crash. And I also don't think that people realize how substances and things that we eat have so much to do with that. And
like it almost like it creates a fog
in
in
your
your system.
especially carbs and sugar.
Yeah.
They really
carbs, caffeine too. Like I haven't had coffee in 2 days, and I swear that's part of like my emotional thing too. Yeah, I haven't had coffee in 2 days, and I only drink like a cup a day, but I think I rely on. And if you look up caffeine and sugar, those are they're like considered drugs. They're very, very addictive.
I struggle with that.
And you go through detox,
You go through that.
with addiction.
And your dopamine levels change.
Yep.
Like you can go from, and then that's why also too, it's important that people understand that that's why drugs are so terrible and why they have such a constitute for depression, because you take these drugs and these substances that make your dopamine go skyrocket through the roof, and then when you're not on those drugs, alcohol, you then plummet, and then all of a sudden you can't regulate. It's like your brain can't regulate itself, and then all of a sudden you fall into these pits. So I think there's just a lot of different facets to depression that we don't consider, and even again, me, like I guess I never identified depression in my life when I maybe should have identified it as that.
I'm the same way.
I was just like, oh, it's just maybe I just feel like I'm like lower in a rut.
Yeah.
But then you go through things where you're like, okay, no, there's something actually going on here. Or when you take yourself off sugar, you take yourself off caffeine, you realize how dependent your body and your brain is on those things.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
As you were saying that, Miranda, the Lord prompted me to share that I think just like anybody else, when you're depressed, you tend to either eat comfort foods or not eat, sleep too much or can't sleep, but also sleep with other people, sex, have intercourse with other people to try to fill a void. And then you find yourself at a lonelier place. You try to comfort that depression with someone, thinking that moment is going to make you feel better, when in fact, when that person is gone, it brings you down. It's like a downer.
Yeah.
You have a moment, right?
It brings you shame. Like it's almost like you think it's gonna be good for you, but then it doesn't turn out the way you want it, and then you're like in shame. So the shame kind of brings you down,
Right?
Even more.
Or the people that I've had. My mother was an alcoholic growing up, and I think, and my biological father was alcohol and cocaine, and just when I was younger, it sort of prompted me to look into like the effects of cocaine on the brain and the effects of alcohol, and it's just that like when you feel that low, the only way to get back up is to continue the cycle of using the alcohol or using the drug. And cocaine being one of the worst, because it does skyrocket your dopamine. Then you crash, you come down off of it. And what happens we don't realize is that our serotonin levels in our brain then cannot get back to like a normal number. Like if 30 was a normal number and you were at like 120 when you were high, when you plummet, you're at like a 6 and you can't get back up to a regular level.
Not only that, but I've known of people that they have smoked weed all their life, right? And they suffer from depression when they do it every day, when they're so codependent on it. And they're going through this depression, and then they get anxiety. And I know a few people that have been doing this all their life, and now they're in this situation of depression
And it causes
and
more
anxiety,
It causes even more anxiety.
and a fear now, all of this. Because again, depression comes in different ways, right? For different reasons. There's rape, there's molestation, there's loveless. We've talked about all these things. There is rejection, there's trauma, there's we talked about cancer, but cancer being a malignant growth. There's all these different things that will cause depression, and depression doesn't look the same for everybody, right? It's different for everybody, and we all deal with it differently. I know for me, I shared this over and over. I didn't know I was depressed until my daughter said, "Get up," and I said, "I can't. I'm too sick." She says, "You've been sick too long," and there's something clicked. And I literally was in bed like for 6 months. I couldn't get up. My body was in so much pain because I have been suppressing everything that had been happening to me and didn't know how to articulate or share because I was too tough. Right? We know some tough women in here, right? I'm tough. I don't need to talk about it. Everything's going to be fine. I'm good. So I portray something out here, but my inside is just dying. And all this pain comes on us. And we've all, been through that. We've all been through different situations where we've experienced pain, trauma, rejection in one way or another, not feeling loved, feeling like, I was abused mentally, physically, emotionally. There's a lot of reasons why a lot of people go through depression. And for some people, it is a lifestyle and it's a mental health issue. And they need to get help, right? We all need to get help, and it's important that we do something about it instead of just staying stuck. So if you are going through a situation, and I'm going to have everyone share their personal opinion because I think it's important because we all view things differently. But if in my suggestion would be like seek some help, reach out to a group of people that they're going to love you, that they're not going to judge you. Reach out to a community, to a pastor, to a leader, to a therapist, somewhere, somehow. Don't stay stuck. For some of you that might be an artist, I'm going to leave that to Daisy.
Yeah, I think it's important to find an outlet, right? A positive one,
Right.
Whether that's journaling or you're into art. Some people, want to, get into more exercise, right? You want to do something that's going to help you, right, to deal with that, because you want to couple that with talking to someone. I think you
Right.
brought up a really good point. I think that, people don't even like to use the word.
Yeah.
The term depression itself puts people in a
It's
in a
like
mood.
It's
It's a stigma, right? And we need to talk about that. And we're not saying you have to go on a talk show necessarily, but you need to have somebody trusted in your life, whether it's like you mentioned, a pastor, a trusted friend, a family member, someone that you can confide in, because you can't keep it all locked in, right? It's gonna come back at you at some point, and so you want to make sure that you have that. And for me, it was writing and reading, but I definitely think you need an outlet along with having that trusted individual that you can confide in.
I think for me, it was dancing, right?
Yes, exactly.
Daisy knew me back in the days. It was just
Exactly.
dancing. And I would just go dancing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because that for me, it wasn't about drinking or drugs or sleeping around. It was just dancing. And I know a lot of people that had addictions and depression, and dancing was their outlet. And they were no longer in depression or in addictions, but dancing became their joy, their outlet, How about you, Miranda?
What my outlet would be?
Yeah. Wanted to ask you, I'm sure you do treat people with depression, because Miranda's a therapist. So have you had patients that say to you, I believe I'm going through depression? Or did they teach you, for people that are going through depression, are there any pressure points or something that you work on with them?
Yeah, I see a lot of people that struggle with depression, and believe it or not, body work definitely. More often than not, people will open up on the table emotionally, because, like you said, there is a component, like a physiological component.
You can carry all of that in your body.
As soon as you start to work on different areas, and there are certain pressure points that are directly affiliated with grief. So you hit certain areas, and it will bring up, and even I'm sort of going through that right now personally. Like, I feel like in certain areas of my body that hurt are definitely directly affiliated with emotion, or it could be affiliated with the trauma. So yes, one of the, and we learned a lot about it in school, because it's one of the biggest reasons people seek out the work that I do. So yes.
So they should go to you.
Sure.
You should go. She's a very good massage therapist.
There you go.
We've had her.
West Hartford, come see me.
And what's the name of the place?
Essential Health.
Essential Health in West Hartford. If you need a massage, whether you're depressed or not, go see
Yeah, you don't have to
Miranda.
be depressed to come see me. So massages are the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for my outlet, and you guys are gonna laugh, but we're gonna be honest, right?
Right.
One of my best stress and depression outlets is cleaning.
No, it's not.
No, that's
I'm the same way.
I get it.
I don't know.
I'm the
And I'm not just talking about like your regular dusting and vacuuming, like deep or reorganizing or
Organizing.
purging.
Yeah.
So when I'm feeling like irritably stressed, that's what I
Yeah.
want to do.
That's how I do it too.
But I think aside from that, hiking. I would
Hiking.
say I'm a big hiker. I love
And she
it.
goes at any kind of weather.
Yeah.
Her and Lenny,
Yeah,
she
you
brings her
go,
3-year-old.
You guys
So
are
great.
very in tune to nature.
Yeah,
We-
she is very.
Rain, snow, it doesn't
Great.
matter. It has to be like dangerous for us to not go. But hiking for sure. And then of course, just taking time I am also a big reader. I love to read. I always tell Michelle, I'm like, I have like this like student in me where I could just be a student forever. Like if I'm
Yeah.
studying this for a solid year, I can study something else for a solid year. Like I love to study, read, research.
Anything about health, about food, about body, you can go to her
Yeah,
and
that's
she
like
will
my
help you
passion,
and guide
yeah.
you.
So
Nice.
I think that taking time to read, but also, first and foremost, praying.
Mm-hmm.
Because in desperation, you know, and I think we all can testify to having those times like, where the prayer wasn't fancy, but it was desperate.
Yeah.
And I think that the times that I've seen God move in my life the most was when I was very weak, desperate, and like all in, like, Lord, I gotta put my full weight on you. I have to just, I got no other. And it's so funny because I always think that scripture that says that His power is made perfect in our weakness,
Right.
and that yes, when things are good and you're praying God, up and up, but there's times where I think that when I've seen the biggest moves of God in my life have been when I was just so broken that I had to fully depend on Him.
Yeah.
So true. Amen.
Yeah. I know that for me, when my daughter spoke those words to me, I literally got on my knees and just cried out to God and just cried and just prayed. And I said, Lord, whatever this is, I can't do this. I need you to do this. And that's when I started seeking the Lord. Actually, it was right at that moment. I was always a believer. I was born and raised Catholic. I knew of a God. I didn't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And it was at that point that I started crying out to God, find me a place where I can have a relationship with you. There's got to be something more and greater, because I can't do this anymore, And I think a lot of times we go through that because we're relying and depending on ourselves, thinking it'll get better, it'll change, I got this. And the truth is we really don't. We need to put God first in prayer, and then God will lead us, right? He'll lead us differently. For you, it's writing. For you, it's hiking. What is it for you?
Poetry.
Poetry. That's right.
Mhm.
Poetry.
Definitely has. I began poetry since I was like in middle school. It's like my passion, and it's carried me through, and it just helps me to express like my deep thoughts and just like being just so raw and
Mhm.
like non-judgmental when I'm writing. I kind of feel like I'm in like this my own little like space of like let it all out
Mhm.
and be honest, and it's definitely gotten me through some really tough times. Like I literally still would love to have my poetry book,
Okay.
published and stuff.
Stacey's gonna give us the
That's what I was
information of the
gonna say.
author.
It's time for
Because
you
I
to
have
publish.
covers for I have 3 books. I have the covers for it, and one of them is finished. 2 of them are halfway there. So I'm excited about that. But I know we're like getting off the subject here. So we just want you to know that whatever you're going through, whether it be depression, anxiety, and worry, because it's all connected, right? You're not alone. First of all, you're not alone. Second of all, seek someone somewhere, somehow. I know for a beautiful young lady, for her is art. She just gets lost in the art. And I know this handsome young man, for him it's music. And he gets lost in his music and in his lyrics, and he does the music. So I think that we all need that outlet. Some people just kind of like lose themselves through TV but I'm gonna say something. Don't go into social media if you're depressed. Try to stay away from social media, because social media can make you more depressed.
It actually puts pressure on you.
Because I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of times we're looking at other people saying, "Oh my God, they have it all together. They look so great. Great things are happening to them. Nothing's happening to me."
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I promise you, those people are not living the way it appears to be. And I say this because I've had many people that they look like, oh my God, they're doing so amazing, and
But then you
they're
find
not.
out,
They,
yeah.
they'll call me. They're broken. They're and depressed, crying, afraid. And so we portray this thing, in front of everyone because we have to look good. No, we don't have to look good. We just have to be good inside and be confident with who we are, right? And who God created us to be.
Comparison is a thief of joy. I
Yeah.
always say it. Don't even do it. Don't do it. It's not real.
Yeah. So Daisy, do you have any other last words for us and for the viewers?
Well, again, I just want to thank you for having me on the show. It was such a great experience to meet the two of you.
Yes, definitely.
And just to be able to share, the book, but more importantly, just the experience that I brought. I hope that, my story might have resonated with someone, and
Absolutely.
that it could be a blessing. And no, my life isn't perfect, right? And I'm still growing and learning
None of
every
us,
day,
yeah.
right? But I strive to be a good person and to move in a positive way. And so, the book also.
I was gonna say, how
so
can anyone get this book?
So the book is available on Amazon.
Yay.
It is. You could just type in "I'll see you on the bridge" and my name, Daisy Torres, and it'll pop up. And what I really want to highlight, because this book was made, as I mentioned earlier, to be a blessing. And so I do like to add that 100% of the proceeds is going into a scholarship for
Wow.
students who are going to college. So I don't take any proceeds for myself.
That's beautiful.
That is for a
That's
student.
so nice.
And I actually gave my first one this past
Yeah.
May to my alma mater, my high school,
Aw.
to a student who was pursuing a degree
That's so
in medicine. So
wonderful.
and that's why I'm super proud of that, because it feels like now, what God just blessed me with so
You can
much,
bless
I'm blessing others.
Right.
So you can move forward, right? So
That's sweet.
So that's a beautiful thing, because I'll share with you one of the books that the Lord gave me to write. He said, "You're not getting one penny of that. That is going to go in for the love for orphans in the nations."
Mhm.
So, and then other books will be going to other, things. So, again, here we go. Hope you can see it. It is "I'll See You on the Bridge" by Daisy Torres. Make sure you go to Amazon. And if you need any massage, we're gonna go to where?
Essential Health, 74 Park Road, West Hartford, Connecticut.
To Miranda. Ask for Miranda. And Barbara, if you want to learn about poetry, no, I'm just kidding.
Hey.
She's bilingual, so she
Yes.
could read this book to your kids in English and then
There you
Spanish.
go.
I might do a video.
Yeah.
The book, and
Ah,
I'll
I
read
love
it,
it.
and I can
Wait,
have
should
it on.
the kids and then
Yes,
the
yes.
Yes. And I have a pet page on Facebook. It's
Okay.
called Bridge Babies. So we
Oh.
can
Bridge Babies.
at Bridge Babies for Bridge, right? And we could post it there.
Yeah,
Right.
There you go.
totally. See, God
So,
is good.
There you go. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you next month. I'm so sorry. I really don't remember what's the topic for October. But I will post it on our Facebook page. It's been a very busy month. We have had birthdays, anniversaries, more birthdays. I kid you not. My brother-in-law, my birthday, my anniversary, the twins' birthday, my sister-in-law's birthday. Like, this is all in just September. And then my dad's birthday is next week. So it's been nonetheless very, very hectic. And by the way, we had an event on September 11th. It was a celebration of life and benefit event. And it's talking about the calling that God has given me, not just his talk show, but an amazing building that God, I believe, has brought us to do amazing things for the kingdom, to be able to be a blessing. Not about religion. Please hear me. It's not about religion, but it's for a safe haven. And so if you want to know more about that information, you are welcome to inbox me. But more than anything, we're going to have another one. So we hope that you will stay tuned. God willing, it's going to be on November, Saturday, 27th. And it's going to be dinner. It's going to be entertainment. This one is going to be at large, a little bit larger. And we're going to have a great time. We had an awesome time. Yes, and dancing. We're going to have entertainment and dancing. We had an amazing time the first one. It was a smaller, but it was beautiful. It was a perfect evening. But we know in the name of Jesus, right, that the next one is going to even be greater. So if you're interested, you're involved, want to be involved with youth, you want to be involved helping. By the way, October 2nd, Miranda is going to have an event, and this is to help. Go ahead, share.
Introduction to Human Trafficking in Connecticut. So we're going to be doing it at Lifeway Church in Newington, 2172 Berlin Turnpike, October 2nd from 10 to 1. And it's going to be a 90-minute presentation on, it's basically a mini training. I took a certification through DCF, but we're shortening that and just kind of giving some statistics about the state of Connecticut as well as throughout the United States of the reality of human trafficking. And then the second part is a 90-minute just meet and greet where you can sign up to volunteer. We're going to have t-shirts for sale that are going to go towards benefiting the ministry, ways of getting involved on a street team, or if you're just interested in sponsoring. And also just connecting with Newington Rotary and Newington Police Department, who has a plethora of other resources here in the state of Connecticut.
So there's a lot you can get involved with so that you can get out of your, depression. You can get involved with that. You can get involved with what the Lord is doing through us, which, I shared at the event. There's this that is helping with helping to get this information out and help those that are out there that are at a loss to get them out. There's also going to be a prison ministry that will help those women that are coming out of prison, help them get on their feet, help them get back on track. There's a lot of great information, so you don't want to miss it. That's going to be Saturday, November 27th from 6 p.m. to 10. We're going to have dinner, entertainment, music, and a presentation. We're not going to bore you to death, I promise you. And we're going to give you more information in regards to the presentation so that you can be able to see it and understand. So again, we hope you join us. Stay tuned. We will see you next Friday at 7:30. Thank you for joining us. Have a great, fabulous weekend. And I am Michelle, your host.
I'm Daisy.
Miranda.
Barbara.
And together we are one. Have a great night. Bye-bye.